All right, cool. Hey, all right, we're live. What's up, everybody? This is Rahul Cody, and we have a special featured guest here, Marty. He's an amazing real estate agent out in Canada, and he's also one of our Rainmaker clients. And we wanted to give a spotlight interview here about what his experience has been in general, and maybe help you guys get some tips. Just a quick background on us. We are the Real Estate Rainmakers. We have a program where we help real estate agents get qualified leads, not the leads that don't answer the phone and wrong phone numbers, people that are all fully transactionable. So if anybody possibly needs help with their marketing, we're a click away from a messenger conversation or a comment, and we can get you the information that you'd like. But with that being said, I kind of want to talk here and keep our focus and spotlight on Mr. Marty here. He's had some great success with implementing our program. We're just at the 45-day mark in this program, just so you know how quick things happen. This isn't like a personal development, coaching, motivational speaking program. This is a program that gets you people who want to talk, so your energy stays high, so you have a future path of where your next transaction is coming from. So with that being said, Marty, thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I get along pretty well with you guys. You guys are pretty down to earth, and you make a platform that's really easy to kind of interact with you guys and keep up to date and not, obviously in touch. So, of course, this is what we do, right?
Definitely. And we'll try to keep this as precise as possible, because I know right before we started this, you got one of your leads, that's the warmer leads, call you. So I appreciate you prioritizing us for this too.
She was trying to book appointments and telling me, oh, I saw another couple of potentials. And I said, you know what? Let's bank those, shoot them to me in a text. And she did, actually, while we were talking before we went live. And so, I mean, there's lots to follow up on. It never stops, right? It's 24/7.
I love it. I love the attitude. I mean, people out there that's listening, remember that 24/7 thing. Not that you have to hustle like Gary Vee or be 24/7. The leads are constantly coming in 24/7. But let's talk about what you were doing like before us. Like, what were you guys doing to kind of get more leads? So I know you guys are a successful team there too, right?
Yeah. So the person I partnered with, Vince, obviously. So I mean, we reached out to you thinking this was a good way to expand, especially going into some of the slower months. It's difficult to just generate your own leads unless, I mean, cold calling with COVID, you can't knock on doors or do anything like that. So it's just trying to figure out a way to keep the stream coming. And other than your own personal networking and friends of friends and family, it's difficult sometimes to figure out that next, how do I reach out to find another demographic or another audience? So this was kind of the next logical step, was finding something in a marketing perspective, but this is also keeping it fresh and current, which is social media, digital, right? So that's kind of where you guys come in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's interesting what you mentioned right there, because you were talking about like a slowdown, slower months. We're in a pandemic, and then you just decided to say, hey, I want to spend money on a marketing plan that I don't know if it's going to work or not. But then you realize that, hey, if I'm only relying on the people that know me, then I can't grow the business. Is that what was going through your head?
Yeah, it's definitely difficult because there's no networking platform. You can't go to, your regular, whether it's a watering hole or whether it's an event, like those are the places you could really network, right? Even if it's a family event or a charitable whatever event, you meet people, you mingle, right? We're all personal people in this field, but you're really clamped down on with COVID restrictions. So where do you meet? Where do you network? Where do you grow your leads? And so you really just have to think a little bit, not so much outside the box, but just think of what there is available and really start focusing on what you can utilize, which is, again, online, digital.
Right. So I'm curious, like, had you done any sort of digital marketing before we started with you?
I think so. Before I joined with Vince had a little bit of digital going. I think it was like a Google based advertising. So I'm not exactly sure the extent that he took it to, but I think it was a very slow return. It was just a long drip process of trying to get some people. And I mean, you can network with people, however, and then add them to your search or add them to, say, one of those message like MailChimp or whatever, those sort of services. So you eventually e-blast them once every couple of months just to retain them a bit. But nothing as involved as this, nothing that just kind of, retains and generates as well as this.
Right. Like earlier you mentioned something about our platform and the ease of use. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Well, like the interface, so what is it? It's Follow Up Monster, right? I think that's the title for the interface. So it's very, I don't want to say generic in its simplicity, but it's simplified so that you can, within a week, get totally used to it. It's a very comfortable feel. Working with Cody, you add, you delete, you rename columns to however your preference is. You kind of generate your leads and then you sort them accordingly. Like you make it your own HQ, right? And it's very easy to, I guess, categorize your leads, and it's very easy to follow up, find their information, book appointments. You kind of make your own notes and stuff. Like it says, it's as interactive as you want it to be. And for someone who is efficient and very organized, I mean, I'm not saying I'm the most of either of those, somewhere in the middle maybe. So you can utilize those features, and it's very simple.
Yeah, no, I like the Follow Monster, and I'm glad you mentioned its simplicity, because I know that a lot of people are using all these broker given platforms that are free supposedly, but essentially it costs them money because they're not using it, they're not following up with people, they're not customizing the email sequences based on offers. And the touch points are key, because like one of the things Cody and I pride ourselves on this system is that it's precise to the offer. Because I'm pretty tired and sick and tired of this. If anybody's out there listening, realtors, I know when the time change is going to happen. I don't need an email. My iPhone automatically updates. I know when it's Thanksgiving. I know when it's the holidays. Those are cool emails, but they're so unpersonalized that everybody knows it. But when you have like a brand new lead that's cold, that doesn't have any way of ever knowing you in life, now you're the brand. You're basically putting a billboard economically really cheap, I don't want to use that word cheap, I guess economically is better, where the whole community has an opportunity to see you. So the reach on social media is impressive, but more so, it's not necessarily, because I know anybody with a credit card can go buy anything. They can go buy media, they can go buy a park bench, they can buy a bus bench, but ultimately it's the strategy that is the reason a media buying company works. Because I know, like you mentioned with Vince, like doing like Google ads, or even it could have been social media, it's slow rolling because touch points are key, because we're living in a distracted world today. People, their phones are buzzing. There's new social media apps coming every day that are the next big thing. And while somebody's on the phone, they could be doing their makeup, listening to a YouTube video, replying to an email. So that's why like the follow-up system and commending you with your follow-up process is imperative. So we let technology assist us, not do the work for us. But going into that, segueing into like, tell me a little bit about your process. Like when leads come in, what's your mentality and how do you handle them?
Well, I mean, that's a good, and it's a fair, difficult question, because leads come in at all hours of the day, right? I don't know if I necessarily get the notifiers, like the pings. You set what hours of the day to kind of not get bombarded. But I mean, essentially, they're coming in early in the morning, they're coming in afternoon, evening. You jump on them as quick as you can, as long as it's relatively fresh, because you know that they've interacted in whatever platform, whether it's their cell phone or their laptops or their computers. They've interacted and engaged and opted in. So you can get them and retain them as recently as you can. Or you know what, I try and book like those popular, like those hot hours. So an evening dinner hour when they're done work, right? If they opt in and it's early afternoon and you couldn't catch them for a couple hours, wait till that dinner hour when they're done work or out of school or whatever it is. Same thing on the weekends. A Sunday afternoon is a great time. People are just free. They're around. They're fresh. They're awake. They're not busy doing other stuff unless they are. You kind of hit on those peak hours where people are responsive, and you keep following up, and you just kind of set, like, it's almost like you're scheduling calls as the regimen of when people will be available. Although like you guys were saying at the beginning of running this campaign, if you can follow up in the first 10 minutes, beautiful, because they're on their platform. But if, I mean, hey, I'm in a moment's notice going to book appointments, I can't be totally available right when they opt in, then set a good time to follow up. Like, be scheduled and you're only going to get rewarded for the more efficient you are and the more schedule based you are.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, especially like with the volume of leads. I don't want people to think that's overwhelming. That's actually a good thing, because when you're in a sales position, especially being in real estate, we always have to keep our pipeline really rich at the top. We need to have as many people that don't know us to get to know us. So I know that I appreciate that you mentioned being efficient with your time and setting those boundaries so you can be as efficient with those leads. So speaking of which, because of your time management, can you tell us a little bit of, like, we're at the 45-day mark,
Yeah.
and how many, like, you've closed a transaction already? Can you describe like what happened and take us through that process?
This was a story that you know what, I don't want to tap myself on the back and say it's a 24/7 gig, but this was a 24/7 gig. So this lead opted in, I believe, on like a Friday afternoon. Gave him a call at that Friday at 6, that dinner hour, when I figured, oh, he's done work. Nope, caught him going in for shift work for the evening. So sorry, I can't talk to you. How about we book a time, in the morning or whatever. I get back at, whatever, 9 in the morning. So I said, sure, let's book an appointment for 10. One in the morning, my phone's blowing up. I was awake. He was texting saying, no, I'm going to be in bed by then. 9 o'clock, we need to talk. Awesome. My phone is always on when I go to sleep. 8:30 in the morning, it starts blasting. I'm waking up. I'm stumbling out of bed. He's like, no, I'm not going to make it till 9. We need to talk right now. I like, all right, stumble to the computer, trip over a couple things, set him up with his search. So, I mean, we use a customized search thing. You find what the criteria is. Got him going. Back to bed I go for another hour, half hour, whatever it is. And then, within the next day, ping, ping, ping. He's like, I love these properties. Let's go take a look. One thing after another was, we put a few offers in. He was motivated, though. It helps when your leads, like you said, you're kind of filtering. They make the choice to opt in. They're engaging with you to start that process. There's no dead cold lead. There's no such thing in this process, because they have to give you a step of commitment, whether it's an email, a phone number only. So they are giving you something, right, to start it off. And some of them will be hotter than others, but he was committed, and I kept providing him with the properties and the process. And I mean, like any realtor knows, you just continue along, right? And eventually he found something. We had to put a few offers in on properties that we didn't get, but we were just persistent, right? That's all it is. It's like any good client realtor relationship. You just got some persistence. You just keep digging. And we found something, and it worked out really well in the end. And he got a great property, and conditions came off in the past week, so it's firmed up, and it's just waiting for the spring thaw when he can move on in. So that's good.
So yeah, that's amazing. So with the Rainmaker system, we were able to bring in a volume of leads, one of them already transacted. And am I allowed to talk about the commission value here?
I mean, I would think so. Like, it's open knowledge, right? Well, when any listing is posted, you see the percentage, and once you see the price of the sale, then you can put 2 and 2 together. Yeah.
Right. Okay, cool. So it's basically $11,000 in additional revenue commissionable to Marty and his team, and basically just using this Rainmaker system. So basically, like, I know that there's a lot of sphere of influence people out there that say, I only work by referral only, and more power to you. But if you want to expand your sphere of influence, this is the way to do it. Digitize the business. Kind of, you don't need to understand technology. You just have to understand that you have a lead and a system that will help support you. And this is what happens. And before we went live, we were kind of just chatting about other potential opportunities and the layers of pipeline stages. And I'll let you talk to it, but I know that you have one potential buyer that is like, he's in the buyer's cusp. He's getting closer to that commitment. And then that third person you mentioned that you were just talking to before this call on text message seems very serious as well. Can you kind of like talk about how those layers work and how warm they are for you right now?
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, you've got your person who's going out making offers, right? That's the hottest lead. They're engaged. They're represented. They have an agreement with you, like you're their guy or girl, and then, just below that, like, so there's one person who's a potential investor side. So they're very cautious. They work with whoever gets them the leads. When they put an offer in, you're their guy. So, and we've got to that point. We've seen a property. We're going to see another one this afternoon, funny enough. So that's as hot as it can be without being that next, like the ultimate level, right? And then, the other client, the lady, so potential client, she's already got, a few houses she wants to look at tomorrow. So that's going to become that next level, right? Because you show them around, you get a sense for what they do or don't love. Hey, and if these ones aren't great, we'll line up the next ones, but we're working together. And I think below that is where you kind of get these different levels where you personally have to feel out the commitment of some of these people, because you set them up, you have a great phone call, conversation. You set them up on the search. You can see some of them will start interacting right away. They're on it. you get a sense that they are seriously looking. And then you get some that, you know, they might be on once a week and they're more looking for maybe say in March or April with the thaw, you know, so that you can, as a realtor, you get a sense when you start tracking the usage of these search features. You get a sense, and you kind of, everyone will, I guess, categorize their different levels and different layers. But I mean, those are pretty much where I'm at. And I think I'd say there's probably about 25 or so people, at least in that opted in searching sort of level, where at some point they did go and look at the searches, they looked at the listings provided. And I mean, I think there might be a little over 200 leads total generated right now. That's a lot of retention and a lot of people searching. Like, let's just say next week, all of them pull the trigger and find a house they love that they want to see. I need to multiply myself times 5 to be able to see all these people all of a sudden, right? Like that's a good problem to have, right? So I mean, I hope I have that problem, but everyone will kind of go at a different speed. But yeah, so that's kind of where it's at.
Well, you're gonna have to get a bus to be able to like bus everybody around, and maybe they'll get a bidding war together.
Yeah, it's called the Marty
But
Party Bus. Yeah,
I like it. You already have the name. I love it.
absolutely branded.
But so that's interesting. I like that's news to me. I know we're managing the campaigns, but 25 warm leads in that layer that you've qualified. And then you have another, let's say 175 plus that are just being nurtured. And that doesn't mean they're going to ever be a buyer from you. We can probably say throw away 50% and focus on the other, whatever, like 80 or 90 that's remaining. That just because they opted in today doesn't mean they're not going to be nurtured by our campaign, because we have our long-term nurtures that we already pre-wrote for you that will go out. But somebody interested today may be like, hey, I pulled the trigger too early. I'm a little worried or skeptical about talking to a realtor. I just wanted some info and I don't feel comfortable yet. Maybe 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, or when their lease is coming up or their inheritance is coming in, that could be like, boom, now I'm confident. I don't want to waste Marty's time. And now I feel really good because now, since he's always in my inbox and on my text messages, they're more inclined to already have that relationship with you, because other realtors that I noticed don't have this in their system. They have the free systems. They don't have like a high quality like follow-up system to actually let technology support them. And when it's not supporting you, then you don't have systems, and it's hard to run a successful small business. And that really kind of leaks a lot of money and revenue, because 25 leads in 45 days that you've qualified as warm, and that upper echelon of that 25 or of that layers. How do you think you would have done had we not implemented this into your business?
I mean, well, I would have none of those people probably. Like, those are all literally people I had no contact with, no way to contact, right? These are people on a social media platform choosing to opt in when they saw our campaign and what we could offer. And, you know, just as simple as, you know, providing a list of homes for people potentially looking to make a move, right? There would have been no way, because, and again, like maybe it's part and parcel to the COVID factor, right? How else would you engage with these people? You would never run into these people. And sometimes they're on the fringe of the city. Like, I'm based out of Hamilton, Southern Ontario. Some people aren't based even in this city, but they're looking to move to this city. So they would have come into the bubble or the geographical area to see the campaign. But they're looking to come here, and they wouldn't have had someone here to talk to if not for this system, right? Again, you're looking at people maybe half-hour drive away. They're coming from a totally different demographic or, you know, geographic location. They would never have touched base with anyone in the city if not for this. They didn't know necessarily if maybe I was based in this city or where I was, but you couldn't touch those contacts. Those leads would never have you know, made it to your doorstep if not for something like this.
Right. I mean, now speak to the fact that like if we didn't implement this, what would you have done?
You know what? I mean, again, because you want to utilize your time, right? This just gave me this to focus on. It would have been my own social media networking. It would have been trying to find other layers within social media that maybe we could have, but again, we'd have to put our own, you know, know-how, and not everyone is as social media savvy as the next guy. You know, working with Vince, he's always looking for that next opportunity. How do we put ourselves up? We would have probably come up with something, but honestly, right now, I don't have a better idea. I don't have another idea, because this was the perfect fit for what we needed. Again, being cold, it's winter up here. I know you guys down there with that Cali weather. you got a little bit easier. But I mean, I wouldn't be knocking on doors now anyway. It's too cold, right? So really, you got to resort. Or it might have been as boring as making an Instagram post every day that was, you know, not too generic, but probably generic, right? And that's unfortunate because that's kind of what you'd have access to. So I don't think that there's anything specific I would have done otherwise, because this was just presented at the right time, going into the cold, going into the second shutdown for us up here in Southern Ontario. The lockdown's kind of looming, but real estate keeps going. So I don't think we thought of anything other than this at the time, to be honest.
That's yeah, no, I hear that a lot from realtors that are kind of forward thinking and see the opportunity, like you mentioned, like it's a slowdown, let's spend money. A lot of other people, their mindset is it's a slowdown, let me save money, and that's saving money is just putting your money to sleep. Like one thing I always like to kind of use the analogy of is like at the end of the year, I talked to our Merrill Lynch wealth manager, and he tells me like, "Hey, we had a great year. I made you 3%," and I'm just thinking 3%. I'm like, am I supposed to smile like you're smiling year to year? Because to me, that just sounds like 3%, not double digits, not triple, not quadruple digits. So I'm like, I don't know, like why we're reconsidering our allocation of our investment strategy, because when we invest in our business, we can 10x it, we can get 1,000% return, like the stock Uber, like this, like when you look at your own business as an investment vehicle, rather than, oh, what'll it cost me? Then what'll it cost me will be a lot. You'll be spending more money not investing in your business because you lose every single opportunity because you have no expansion of sphere of influence. It's only your phone book, and then you bug the shit out of the people on your own social profile that are now not going to buy from you too because you're irritating them. But when you go to strangers, then you have an opportunity to open that sphere of influence by investing. Like you've invested a couple $1,000s with us, and then the net result is a warm buyer pool of 25 people, one already closed deal. So it's already like a 4x return. Plus you have two other people that are in the hopper now ready to look and potentially put an offer. It's not guaranteed. Nothing in life is guaranteed. But I mean, then we'll be looking at probably coming up to your neighborhood and bringing a bottle of bourbon and drinking and partying.
Absolutely. I'll get the party bus going, right?
The Marty party.
There we go.
We'll do some drunk caravans. We'll get a driver though. But anyways, I know that Cody, you've been here too, and you've been more of the kind of hands-on of the program. Like, what's your vantage point or any questions for Marty?
No, man, all I wanted to do today was take a second, and I'm going to do it right now, and just kind of, first of all, congratulate Marty, because you know what, guys, like this is a perfect example of how you make this kind of stuff work. We do weekly calls with Marty. We do with all of our clients to make sure that, you know, that we're absolutely helping them adjust. And like Marty said, like add new pipelines, move things around to make it better. But, you know, you can tell it's a two-way street, and you can always tell who's going to succeed. And Marty, I appreciate the hell of you, man. You've been putting in the work, you've been making the moves, and you've been asking the right questions. And when you show up and ask the right questions and you do the right stuff, that's why you start to see the success, right? So for anybody out there that's listening right now, do you have any kind of tips, recommendations, stuff that you know you did that's kind of been working really well that you could kind of, you know, give to them to help them out on their journeys as well?
From me to them?
Mm-hmm.
I would say first of all, don't feel overwhelmed. You will at certain points. When I'm out for an entire day, I think I went for about a 4-hour adventure with a client one day in a different city. So it's, you know, 6 hours total with return trip. And I think I might have had 12 leads that generated in that afternoon, where it was just bam, bam, bam. And when it gets hot, it gets hot. I don't know what the algorithm, I don't know how it works, but when people are clicking in, they're all looking at the same time, it feels. And, you know, it's overwhelming. But again, if you just stick to like, hey, that certain time of the night, even if you couldn't get to it that night, the next day, let it roll over. Don't feel like you've got a billion phone calls and it's tedious and you're a telemarketer. Don't look at it that way. They've already given you the little bit of initiative, and just try and follow up the best you can. And sometimes you won't get a hold of them. The drip will go and it'll bump them. They won't respond, but you know what? Then roll them over into the next calling period as well. Like, I give everyone the benefit of the doubt that maybe they're busy, maybe they're whatever, they'll scream you the first time, but when they see the same number come for a second call, they're more likely to pick it up. They're like, oh, that's not just a one of cleaning your air duct service or something that I've never signed up for calling me, right? I get those calls all the time in Southern Ontario. But so, I mean, you got to do your due diligence. Don't feel overwhelmed because the phones will pick up. Sometimes you go on a cold string too. People don't pick up, you roll them over. You give them the benefit of the doubt, maybe 2 or 3 calls. And then you put the long-term nurture column is there for a reason, because if they're not opting up, they're not reaching out saying, nah, that's not for me, like, don't worry about it, then they haven't cut you off, right? Maybe they're just taking their time. They're talking to their mom about what they want to look at. So I think it's just a commitment. You got to commit. You have to be in it to win it. Like, it's not an overnight thing. And I think that's where the success with my one client came, because you know what, it took a few weeks to get to that point. Then you get this guy pretty much, you know, beating down my door trying to get a hold of me through the night. And but the phone, if your phone is on and you're willing to respond to the really active people, you're gonna win out from it. Like, you're only gonna do yourself a favor.
No, I love it. So much of right now is mindset, right? Because some people will come into it, they'll get a bunch of leads, and like, you understand what you said, about 200 leads, 25 people. Who keeps calling them warm leads? I almost want to call them hot leads. Like, these people are in there searching, looking at houses and pinging and stuff. Like, that's getting there. And then you've got the 3 people who are, you know, actively going out with you to look, and the guy that bought, right? So like, for you, the mindset is, that's amazing. We've got a pipeline that's being built up, and we've got a clear, like, even verbally, that's a funnel, right? You've got the bigger group up top, the smaller group, and then the wins, right? And so the way that you're progressing through this and talking to all of them and seeing them all as opportunities, instead of some of them being not opportunities, which is the way that some people will look at that, to me, that's why you're winning, and that's why you're pushing it all forward, and people are continuously building that momentum, pushing that forward, and seeing that success. So I love it. If you could say like one thing about the system that you've been working with us so far, what would be your favorite aspect of it to this point? Like, what's the one thing that you think has really helped you the most?
I think getting the real-time notification that you have a lead in. It's encouraging to know, you know, 1 PM, I'm out with a client, I get a ping, oh man, I have a lead to follow up on as soon as I do get home. Like, I know it's going to be an hour later, but and then you're on your way home, you get a second one. It's like, well, that's good. I can chain 2 in a row. And then you get a third one. It's like, well, all of a sudden my afternoons turn into maybe getting a hold of one of these 3 people and getting them signed up. And that's a 10-minute process, depending, you know, how quick you are and how engaging you are speaking with someone and how much they're going to give you back. But it's like, now all of a sudden my afternoon became, you know, one showing, you know, a potential client a property, but then also having maybe 3 potential clients followed up with it, right? Like, it's the real-time notifications is great, because it's how active do you want to be? How aggressive? I mean, everyone wants to sit by their phone and answer it, but they can't. But at least, you know, hey, in an hour from now, I got these 3 guys from this morning, and, you know, you didn't have to go sit on your computer at home and look actively yourself to hear about it. Like, you know, it's very free-flowing interaction. And people messaging you, the same thing. You get the messages. People call you through the app. People just blindly call you. They say, hey, this is a phone number. I'm going to call this agent. And I answer my phone saying, who's this? It's like, oh, it's me. I just opted in. Like, you know, I just inquired for the list. That's great. They're calling me. You know, like, it's pretty easy, you know. So you don't have to just be sitting on a computer all day. Like, kind of free flowing. It comes and goes. So I like that.
No, I love
That's
it.
awesome. So, like, based on the run rate of, like, because the momentum starts right at the beginning, right? So we have a runway where we have to get leads in, then get used to the system, use our customer service department, and Cody as the specialist on our team. Now, like, if we were going to do a 12-month run rate of a projection of revenue that you would make in commissions, like, would you be able to quantify that as best you can, assuming that things are always going to compile? If we're on 100 lead a month run rate like we are now, we're actually probably 150 leads a month based on being 45 days in. What would your projection be if you were to give your best guesstimate?
You know what? I've been talking to Vince with this a little bit. You
know
said
what
it.
I'm doing right there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, my dad wanted to join the party, so
yeah, there you go.
I didn't want to.
He heard about the party bus, and I can't blame him. So, you know what? I had this discussion with Vince at being about the halfway mark in. The thing is, we started this going into winter, right? And I mean, winter for us, especially in, you know, Canada, I mean, everywhere probably, the markets slow down a little bit. But this was our investing into the spring, right? People are buying in March. And surprisingly, we have a few people very active in the winter, which is a bonus. But we were kind of looking at how many of these people are looking for 2 months from now, right? And, you know, surprisingly, or not surprisingly, quite a few of them are. So a lot of these might potentially turn into, in a month from now, they hit the ground really looking at properties, right? And surprisingly again, but not, about 5 or 6 of them are looking at new construction. So they're saying, what can I buy at the end of this summer? So I got kids, I want to make a move, I want to be in this area, kind of look at these schools, this area of the city. What around there is building for like this summer? So, you know, you've already got a few people who I don't want to say are hot leads, but they're potentially as active as, you know, the new developments are active. Like if there's a home there, they look like they're committed to buying there. Like they're all set, they've prepped, they've done their homework, and they're pre-approved, right? So it's tough to say, because I think it's an exponential thing where once you get to the spring and summer, I mean, it could be a multiplier of 5, you know, of what we've seen in the winter. So I honestly, I couldn't tell you, but I'm going to say it's going to be strong. It's like, it's an exponential ramp up. It's some sort of algorithm that I haven't planned for. And like I said, it's when all these people start overlapping, when they want to start looking at homes, I don't know how to plan for it. I'm going to need 10 other people. Maybe I mean, hopefully I need more people, but I don't know how to quantify it exactly. I wish I could give you a number, but I expect it to ramp up significantly when you go into those warmer months.
Right. How does it feel, this power, if you will, at your fingertips to just have like a big, huge list of people that you can potentially make limitless commissions on?
It's you know what, it's until you get anything to happen, you can't get too excited. So I try to contain myself, but it's almost overwhelming in the best of ways, where you feel no matter how busy you are now or not busy, because it's again slower season, you know that tomorrow is going to be busier than today, and the next day is going to be busier than that day, because I'm getting the sense there's the ramp up, right? So it's a very comforting sort of thing, but you still got to close. You still have to give everyone the like you have to give them the time, right? You can't start saying, well, I'm so busy, I'm going to give them 10% of the time and they're all going to buy. It's like, well, no, you got to follow up with them and keep nurturing them. So it's a comforting feeling, but it's probably going to be a 24/7 and then some sort of task going in the spring. But I love it. I live for it. I'm not young. I'm not old. So I'm kind of at the point in my life where this is what I'm going to focus on. And that's like anyone else who's looking at it. Like if you have time to focus on it, you can be as busy as you want to be.
100%. Yeah, I appreciate all that. Thank you for all your time. And just for anybody listening out there, if you want this type of result in your business, I know that you may be skeptical, you may have failed, you've got an internet marketer, maybe a family member, uncle or cousin that can possibly post something on Facebook. But if you want true results, a true team that can build like not just the strategy, your email follow-ups, your automation strategies, like have the consulting so you don't have to hire a personal development coach for those $3,000 a month tickets that I hear out there. We can roll that all up into one because that's our inherent nature. We have full transparency in everything we do. And one of the things I want to mention on is, since Marty's so good at what he does, he feels that like he's so, like, just based off this conversation, it gives me a higher level of gratitude towards you too, because you're capitalizing on the leads, because you could have easily called them later, 2 days, 3 days later, and came back to us and said, hey, these leads are no good, but you're doing your part of what we asked you to. And you've reached out to us when you have a bottleneck. So we're using that two-way communication, which is absolutely imperative in a marketing partner, because we have bigger things and more things we want to do with you, but we needed to wait till you have a win. Now you have wins. So now we can make better and recommendations of bigger bottlenecks that we can solve, because you mentioned duplication of view. We can use some part technology and part recruitment, right? So we can build strategies around that too. But what I was getting at here is we also have our own call center that we control, we train, we role play every day for an hour a day. And we're constantly measuring and listening to all their call recordings with clients. So for those of you guys that are thinking like, hey, I just want the warmest ones, I want you guys to do all the work, we have that opportunity available for everybody else. And typically for the newer agents specifically, we have an online program where we teach you exactly step by step, where you can within 1 day possibly have some ads up the next day up and running. You'll still need to implement your own technology, but you can start to get your leads to come to you through our specific strategies that are different. They're not same, they're different, because we've worked with the biggest, baddest wolves on the planet. We've had deals with Realtor.com. We've had referral relationships with Zillow, Trulia, RealtyTrack, LoopNet, all the big portals in America, some in Canada. So we know from experience of corporate American companies and Canadian companies, but what works truly for the agile realtor in a market. So we kind of get to know that particular situation. So if you do want to reach out, don't feel shy. It's your business, your revenue on the line. It doesn't cost you a thing, as we now know here with Marty. The payoff is just significant returns when in comparison to any type of other return you can get out there. So with that being said, Marty, thank you so much for spending this time. I know it's 5 o'clock somewhere, so we appreciate you on a Friday.
Wait. Before we sign off, we gotta say, Marty, if somebody was on the fence about working with us, what would be your advice to them? I gotta ask.
Okay, so I mean, realistically, if you are already thinking of trying to expand your own network, trying to build your own leads, this is honestly, I would say it's as recommendable as possible. If you're going to spend something on advertising in your own world, I mean, whether it's a bus stop bench or something, like, this is honestly going to get you the leads that you can't necessarily count on for having a billboard or something with your face stuck on it that people ignore every day. People will opt in, and the benefit of this is they're putting the first step forward. Like, once they opt in, that's their decision. It's not like it's been a randomly generated, it's a lottery system. It's they've put a foot into the, dipping their toe in the water, and it's there for you to make that connection. They've stepped forward, you just have to respond. And that's a great way to build connections, because they're committing something to you up front. And honestly, that's the best way to generate your leads. So I like it. I like the system.
Cool. Thank you. Appreciate you. Ooh, anything else you want to say to Facebook land before we hop up?
Yeah, I mean, don't feel shy to reach out. That's really where I want to end it with. And if you know anybody, you're a marketing coordinator, you want to bring this to your broker, tag a friend that you want to see results and get results. And Marty, we look forward to working with you now and anybody you introduce us to. So thank you again for your time today.
Yeah, awesome. Of course, guys. I love working with you guys.
Awesome.